Oh, hey there. Come on in. We're just about to start. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian, a fun weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy lifestyle. I'm Rob, and together with my wife Sandra, we invite you to join us on this informative and entertaining journey through the complex world of healthy eating.
Join us each week as we strive to help you with transforming your overall health and relationship with food through up-to-date, evidence-based nutrition information. Xanthum gum, guar gum, carrageenan, and locust bean gum. All futuristic chemistry lab sounding words. But we eat these every day as they're widespread in our food. Emulsifiers, thickening and gelling agents, and stabilizers. Additives to supply the consumer demand for smooth, creamy, and consistent textures. But do we really need these? And could they be harmful? Learn some tips to reduce your intake of these ingredients.
Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hi, Rob.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? How you doing?
We have a question from a listener today, and that's what this episode is all about, because it's a really good question. It's, what are emulsifiers and are they harmful? What's an emulsifier?
I have no idea. Sounds like chemistry class.
I know. Well, it pretty much is.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it like all that stuff on the label that you don't know what it is? Because it sounds like it's something out of a chemistry lab.
Maybe.
Or we're going to find out. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying? Oh, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're looking very like studious today with your glasses, and you got a very sciencey, studious look. Is that part of the role of what we're talking about?
Sure, it is. It's like I'm, in a lab coat, and I've got my Bunsen burner, and no, I'm just joking. We do have some products in front of us, though, just to look for the actual words of the different emulsifiers that we're going to discuss. So we're going to look at the labels on these products that we have in our kitchen. And yeah, today we're going to talk about this question from the listener, and we're going to address emulsifiers. What are they? And what do they do?
Yeah, those are my questions.
And why are they in our food?
No idea.
And where to find them. And we're going to look at labels.
And are they safe?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And yeah, could they be harmful? Are they safe? And then the take-home message at the end will be 5 tips to reduce your intake of emulsifiers.
All right, then.
So that maybe leads you to think that maybe they aren't so good.
Well, I didn't think they were healthy. Just given the name of them, they don't sound like something that grows in your garden.
Right.
Right. So,
although we do have some emulsifiers in our chicken coop.
Okay.
The eggs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's lecithin in egg yolk.
Oh, and lecithin is an emulsifier.
It sure is.
I think we need to rewind and just say what an emulsifier is.
Yes, because there's natural occurring ones in nature.
Okay.
And there's ones that have been developed with chemicals in the factories for products, food products.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so what emulsifiers do is they prevent liquids from separating.
Okay. They're like a binder.
Yeah. So it's water loving and fat loving, and they mix. And so if you think of when you're making salad dressing at home and you have oil, and vinegar, and then maybe mustard, and you shake it all up, or you stir it, that mustard is acting like an emulsifier.
Because it binds the other two ingredients together.
Yeah.
Oh, because oil and water don't naturally stick together. You need something to make them stick together, and if otherwise you're pouring out something that's just going to be all like not pleasant.
See, that's so interesting that you
not
said not pleasant, because that's the thing. The consumer appeal is the big reason there's emulsifiers, because people they want smooth texture, they want creamy texture, foods that don't separate. So you think of flavored yogurts that are all stirred together and that are like in one consistent texture.
You want consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they are like widespread in a lot of our foods. A lot.
Yeah, I bet. Because, I mean, just given reading the labels, which we do a lot of these days, yeah, you see that stuff on the label, especially when the ingredient list is like 30 things long. You get to the section where it's just all these words you can't pronounce and different gums and...
Exactly. That is so true.
And yeah, like you said, because you've explained this stuff to me before, there's a ton of stuff in food that's there to make it look good or smell good or feel good, like
mouthfeel.
Yeah, or like you said, the consistency aspect. It's all about appearance.
Yeah. And if you think of, if you made oat milk from scratch, if you made it and you put it in the fridge overnight, what would happen?
It would all separate. You'd all have little bits floating on the top, and it would be like, ew.
That's right.
I don't want to touch that.
So the oat milk in the grocery store that you buy, and soy milk and coconut milk and rice milk and all the different plant-based alternatives, they're all a little bit different in terms of ingredients, but most of them have some sort of emulsifier.
Okay.
And that helps with preventing that separation.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And they are widespread. Like they are in the plant-based milk alternatives. They're in salad dressings, in ice cream, in breads, in peanut butter, any sauces, like tons of commercial.
Like condiment kind of sauces, mustards, mayos, ketchups, all those kind of things.
Yeah, but not for sure in every one of them. And that's why you can actually look for these certain ingredients.
Okay.
But you asked if they're harmful. Well, the listener asks, are they harmful? And then you said, yeah, do they harm us? Like, should we not be having these things? Because you can't, most of them, it's not something like an ingredient that you would have in your kitchen when you're baking or cooking. Right.
Can we talk about what those specific ingredients are?
Yeah.
Because we haven't said yet.
Okay. So remember I said that in the egg yolk, there's lecithin?
Well, you said there's natural emulsifiers, so that would be the eggs, right?
Yeah.
The lecithin in the eggs.
The egg yolk.
The egg yolk, okay.
Yeah. And sunflower seeds actually have an emulsifying agent, and soybeans.
Oh, okay. So they can extract something from those to use as an emulsifier?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. And soybeans are like the most common, but it's not always the best because depending on where the soybean originated,
right?
It is one of the highest allergenic foods, and they do have like harsh chemicals to extract the emulsifier from soybeans.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, and I think the increasing number of food products on the shelf and the amount of ultra-processed foods, that we've talked about that before, there's more and more emulsifiers in our food supply, and more people are eating a lot of their calories or a lot of their food in their day from ultra-processed foods, which increases the amount of
emulsifiers.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. And so the emulsifier, it acts as I mentioned, it's a stabilizer. It prevents the liquids from separation. Mm-hmm. It also is a thickening agent and like gelling agent.
Right.
So these are all things that are functions of these different additives.
Right. I remember either reading the ingredients or you telling me the ingredients years ago of like a McDonald's milkshake, because I asked why it's so thick, and you said, oh, there's all these different things in them, and they're emulsifiers and thickening agents, and they're there to like make it the way it is, right?
Right.
Nice and thick and creamy and
carrageenan.
All those things in it. Yeah, you told me there's seaweed in it. I'm like, what? Seaweed? What? And then you explained the whole, what emulsifiers were and their function. But yeah, that was interesting. Yeah,
it is interesting because there has been links with, for instance, carrageenan with an increasing risk of ulcerative colitis.
Oh, interesting.
Relapse for people.
Right.
And IBS, there's a rise of irritable bowel syndrome. And there is this link, we don't know for sure, but a link with one of the emulsifiers called CMC, which is carboxymethylcellulose, CMC.
Okay.
So there are some links there with gut health. So with these emulsifiers, and as people are eating more and more ultra-processed foods, and ironically, one of the ones we're going to mention, Xanthum gum, it's in a lot of gluten-free products.
Xanthum gum?
Yeah, and I see a lot of clients that are either celiac or they're avoiding wheat and gluten, and they're eating a lot of ultra-processed foods that are gluten-free, but then they probably have a higher intake of xanthum gum.
Oh, interesting.
And other emulsifiers that might be disrupting their gut microbiota.
Oh, wow. Yeah, crazy.
Because our gut, we have layers in our gut lining. And remember, we've talked about leaky gut before.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing, like there's this oil, like kind of the layering. And if we're eating a lot of whole, minimally processed foods, it keeps a good big cushion. It's helpful for that gut lining to be healthy and have like, you know, we're eating foods that are prebiotics, feeding the probiotics, keeping the, you know, the balance of good and bad bacteria, you know, a better balance.
Right.
And then if we're eating a lot of ultra-processed foods that have these emulsifiers and other additives and preservatives and things, that can impact how our gut lining is acting. And it could possibly affect the integrity of the gut lining and increase the risk of inflammation in the gut. So there's so many ripple effects of what we're eating every day.
Oh, for sure. And the food that we're eating nowadays is so different than, like we've said before, the food that our grandparents used to eat, which contained way less kind of production, I guess, and chemicals and additives and emulsifiers and all these things, you know, and it was just more raw food. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and food that rots, right?
Yeah, and I feel like we don't question it as much as we should be. We just trust that if it's in the grocery store, it's healthy or it's not bad. You know, like they wouldn't sell it if it was bad for you kind of mentality. Yeah. But it's not necessarily the case, because eating one bag of something might be fine, but if you eat it every day, then that's a problem. But that's not how they test the product. They test the product probably like you eat one, it's fine. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. And there's, I mean, a lot of these studies are in animal models, and they're starting to have more human studies with them. But it's linking, it's kind of indicating that the more emulsifiers you're eating, the more effect it might have on your health, like in a harmful way. So it is worthwhile. Like when I said foods rot, so foods that rot are usually whole, minimally processed foods, and they're not like ultra processed coming from a food company, right?
Right.
That have all these, like there's so many different emulsifiers and thickening agents. So anything that has the word gum in it is an
emulsifier?
Most likely. Yeah. Emulsifier or stabilizer, thickening agent, a gelling. It has a gelling ability. So xanthum gum. Doesn't that sound so...
yeah, not like food.
Like
futuristic or something.
Yeah, totally. And then guar gum. What does that sound like?
That sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah, totally.
Like a Star Guar, like the Star Wars character or something.
Yeah, guar gum is like a thickening agent, stabilizer. Carrageenan is another one that's a emulsifier, and it's an additive in a lot of products.
You said that was made from seaweed.
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then agar.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's another one, a gelling agent. Or Arabic gum is another one.
Okay.
Gelum gum, locust bean gum. You've probably heard of that one. The other one is CMC, the carboxymethylcellulose, is the one that they've noticed a link with an increase in the irritable bowel syndrome rise.
Oh, crazy.
With products with that in it.
Yeah, so, those are crazy names. And I mean, We all read those on the ingredient list when we read them, but how many people go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't be eating this? Or do they just think, oh, I guess it's safe?
Well, just because it's plant-based doesn't make it healthy. We've said that in past episodes too, because a lot of these products that I'm talking about are like technically plant-based products, but they do have the added sugars, emulsifiers, stabilizers, like all these additives and preservatives. So they need to be shelf stable. People want them to prevent the liquids from separating.
Right.
So, you know, because it's more appealing for the consumer, right?
Totally.
If you think of like yogurt that separates, a lot of people don't like that. But yeah, that's part of it, is what the consumer demand is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
So companies are trying to keep up with that, which is, you know, we have a lot more variety in our food supply. We can get foods in all seasons nowadays. I mean, we're so much further ahead than we were 50 years ago in terms of our food, but we also have to look at the food products and how much of our daily intake is foods that are ultra processed.
Yeah, exactly.
Compared to minimally processed that rot. That's why I say that rot, because foods that rot are really good for us.
You know what I was just thinking is like a veggie burger. I bet that has tons of that stuff that holds everything together, the binders. And you think, oh, it's a veggie burger. It's probably better than a beef burger. But maybe if it's got all these extra things in it, it's not quite as healthy as you think it is.
I know, exactly. And the same goes for milk, for instance, like dairy milk, cow's milk versus plant-based alternative. You know, like if you're getting a lot of emulsifiers and it's food that's kind of
not as natural, I guess. Not as raw.
Made in a factory.
Yeah, true. Yeah, like we were saying before, like it's not the food your grandparents would eat. It doesn't mean that they're all bad, but it's just a different way of producing food than it used to be, and we need to be careful of what we're ingesting.
Yeah, and as you said, people don't question. I think people do not question what they're putting in their body and what they're eating on a day-to-day basis. I think most of our listeners who are listening to My Wife, the Dietitian, are probably, they have a heightened awareness of how food impacts health over the long term and in terms of their family's health and their own health. And that's why we are talking about this, because there's just in front of me here, I have, just common products that we have in our fridge, because there's 4 people in our family. And, obviously we go grocery shopping. We're not just buying apples and bananas and leafy greens, although those are on our grocery list. We have sauces, we have, other items like mayonnaise and different food products that appeal to different people in the family. So I grabbed about there's probably 10 in front of me here. And just so that we can talk about like the different labels and where you find these gums.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Okay. So the one that had like, oh my God, like so many was this cream cheese product.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's interesting. Yeah, the label was like very long, and in it included guar gum, carrageenan, xanthum gum, and carob bean gum.
Crazy. And did you say what those things individually are? Like, are they, where does xanthum gum come from? Or is it a chemical? Like, is it from something? Like, it sounds like it's from, like, the bark of a tree or something. Like,
right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it's probably
good
something
question.
like that.
Well, I know carrageenan comes from the seaweed, and it's basically in dairy and meat and plant-based alternatives. The carrageenan, the guar gums, a thickener and a stabilizer, and it's in a lot of sauces and baked goods and dairy products. Oh, and ice cream, because if you think you don't want your ice cream to be separating, you want like that nice consistent texture, that has a emulsifier and a thickening agent, so it doesn't melt like right away.
Right.
So yeah, they're all from different sources. A lot of them are made in the factory, like they are made in a lab.
That's crazy, hey? Yeah, wow.
So we just looked at the cream cheese. And then look at we have an oat milk here. It's a common brand, and every single oat milk that I looked at on the shelf had different ingredients. And this one has gelum gum.
Xanthum gum.
Yeah, included in all of the different ingredient listings there. So that's an emulsifier, which is, I mean, it's not like the cream cheese product that has carrageenan, guar gum, xanthum gum, and carrageenan gum.
No doubt. Wow.
And that's a light product. So it's like, you know, with some of the ones that are the fat's taken out, or it's like lower in, you know, remember we've talked about that?
And sugar-free too.
Exactly.
Where they replace it with to get the same, to create the same effect that the oil or the sugar would do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like food science is a huge industry, and, you know, the food companies are giants. So, and they want to have good products for consumers, but it's a balance. And like, how much of these foods are you eating every day compared to minimally processed whole foods, right?
Do you remember that thing we watched? We might have talked about this before, but we watched this documentary, and it was showing the difference in, I think it was kids' candy, like M&Ms or something, and it was showing the difference in the M&M product they have in Europe versus the M&M product they have in North America.
Or in Canada.
Or in Canada, yeah. And it was so much different.
Because Canada's different than the States.
Right. Okay. So it was so much different here because they were all these different additives to make it look different, feel different. I don't think the taste was much different.
Yeah, because the kids, they had a little bit of a taste test.
With the kids, yeah.
Yeah, and the kids all said that, like, they pretty much, they were equal, but there was way more additives in the product from Canada.
I think it was to make them brighter.
Yeah.
It was all these chemicals, like food coloring chemicals that probably are no good for us. And why do they need to be in the food, especially for kids who are chowing these things down like candy?
They are candy, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And it's just like, yeah, that's the same with all this stuff. It's just there to serve a purpose, to make it look more appealing and to grab your attention. But it's not, your health isn't taken into consideration when they're designing these products. Not necessarily the first priority, put it that way.
That's right. And if you don't question it, and we know that kids, they have so much of the proportion of their daily intake is ultra processed foods. And if parents aren't questioning it, kids don't know.
No, exactly. Kids trust what their parents put in their lunch bag.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of like raising awareness and learning what's in the food and looking at labels. Like, look for these gums and these emulsifying agents, carrageenan, xanthum gum, guar gum, polysorbates are in ice cream and salad dressing. Monodiglycerides are another one in baked goods and ice cream. Margarine, locust bean gum was another one I mentioned before.
That's one of my favorites.
So the xanthum gum, we have a few different salad dressings here. Oh, we've got the Thai sweet chili sauce that has xanthum gum in it to probably prevent separation. The Greek tzatziki Hidden Valley, that's another one that's this creamy dressing. When it says creamy on the label, it probably has an emulsifier agent in it.
Right.
And when you say emulsifier agent, that agent doesn't sound like something from your pantry, does it?
Or from your garden. No, it sounds like the chemistry lab.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that has xanthum gum, and then the tartar sauce has it, and also the Homestyle Ranch Lighthouse has the xanthum gum and guar gum. So it is pretty widespread in our food products that we have. And, you know, a lot of people, this is just a small snapshot of what we have in our fridge, and ones that we wanted to just look at the label and talk about.
Yeah, pretty common products that everyone probably has in their fridge, right? Salad dressings, mayonnaise, you know, sauces, milks.
Yeah, there's just so many.
Now, are they, should we not have them in our fridge then? Like, that's kind of where this is leading. It's like, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't be eating this stuff. Is it bad for me? I should get rid of it all. I should just clean out my fridge and never eat salad dressing again. Right.
Well, that's where the 5 tips to reduce emulsifiers comes in.
Okay. So
right?
Is our message that it's how much you eat that makes it dangerous? Or not dangerous, but...
It's not dangerous. It's just that it's looking like it could be contributing to problems with gut health, like IBS, possibly if you have ulcerative colitis and you're trying to heal from that. If you're having foods with these stabilizers and emulsifiers, it could actually reduce your healing, like you won't heal as fast.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, when the listener asked if they're harmful, we don't know for sure, but it's looking like in the future, there'll probably be limits. That's what I think.
Oh, interesting.
And right now, there's different standards in different countries. And the European standard is more strict than the US standard.
Okay.
And so they're looking at it much more closely. Why these, what's happening with these emulsifiers and human health.
Right.
So, so the first take-home message that I suggest people do is to reduce your intake of ultra-processed food products.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And that makes sense anyway. But if that's where most of these emulsifiers are occurring, then yeah, that would be a helpful way to reduce your intake of emulsifiers, plus all the other junk that's in ultra-processed foods.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on ultra-processed foods. We did an episode on anti-inflammatory diet. Those are all we mention about this theme in those episodes. And, the ultra-processed foods, we know they have added sugars, added sweeteners, maybe artificial sweeteners. We did an episode on diet pop and artificial sweeteners. So that's another reason to reduce your intake of ultra-processed foods.
Right.
The second point is look at the ingredient. Is there any gums in that food?
Can you get these without gums? Like, is there salad dressings that don't contain that kind of stuff? I guess the non-creamy ones, maybe. Or are there creamy ones? Do you know what I'm saying? You
got to look at the ingredient. Okay. Every single company, every single brand, even within the brand, there's differences in what's in the food.
Like, I guess some of those mayonnaises, they used the natural ones, like the egg yolk, as an emulsifier, which is a better option, I'm guessing, than some kind of gum, right?
The lecithin is in the egg yolk, yes.
Okay, so maybe that's a better, look for that maybe instead of a gum. Maybe that's an option. If
we're talking about salad dressing, my point number 3 is make your own.
Oh, okay.
It's so easy. Isn't it easy?
It is easy. What
do you do?
I just ask you to do it.
No, you don't. You make salad dressing all the time. How do you make it?
Well, I don't make salad dressing. I just put olive oil on my salad and maybe a bit of balsamic vinegar and some lime.
Exactly.
Done.
There we go. That's all you need.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Really. Remember I did an experiment in university in one of my labs for different salad dressings. And some I had orange juice in, some I had lemon juice, some I had mustard, some I had garlic puree. So there was different, basically it was all in olive oil and vinegar. And then I changed other ingredients.
Different flavors, yeah.
Yeah. And they were all good. There was no one that took the cake or anything.
The thing with salad too that I find sometimes, especially I've talked about the big sort of salad bowls I make at lunch, and it's got all these different things in it and different flavors. Why would I want to drown it out with ranch dressing or something? I want to taste what's in my bowl. I don't want to necessarily just taste the dressing.
Mm-hmm.
So having just something that sort of accents your ingredients, like a squeeze of lime or a little bit of olive oil or a little bit of vinegar or something like that. It's just like adding salt and pepper. It's not meant to be the main focus of the main flavor focus.
Yeah, no, good point. And that's so true because our taste buds have a short-term memory. So we can get away from drowning our food in sauces and salad dressings and just drizzle just a little bit of a taste so that it's not overpowering. And I mean, I'm all in favor of people eating more salads and eating more raw veggies and other vegetables and fruits any way they can. And if that means they need a dip to do it, that's how I get them started on the process because it's a bit of a journey if you don't even eat them at all, right? So if that's going to get you to eat more vegetables and fruits, to have a little bit of a dressing or a sauce or whatever, that I'm all in favor of that. I think that's okay.
For sure.
But we want to maybe continue the journey as the goal to be eating more minimally processed foods and less of the sauces and less of the commercially prepared foods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's why I said make your own salad dressing, because that's really that's going to reduce your intake of emulsifiers in a big way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Just as an aside, this one that we have in front of us here, chili sauce, I thought for sure it would have emulsifier. It didn't. It actually didn't. It says...
it's like a spicy ketchup.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it looks like.
Made without 10 ingredients such as synthetic colors, artificial flavors, and artificial sweeteners. And it doesn't have any emulsifiers in the listing, which is pretty cool.
I wonder if tomato paste is would serve that purpose.
What purpose?
Well, I don't know, the binding kind of purpose. Or maybe there's no oil in that. Maybe that's why it doesn't need to be bound together. It's all like water, vinegar kind of things that blend.
Yeah, tomato paste, tomatoes, tomato juice, salt, citric acid, sugar, white vinegar. See, these are things that you can do in your kitchen, right?
Yeah,
and that's good because it doesn't have emulsifiers. But remember, there is a reason that people want foods with emulsifiers. Do you remember the reason?
Because they want it to look good?
Yeah, look good. The texture, the creaminess, it's not separated. You said, it's so gross if it's separated.
Yeah, true. Yeah. No, it's all appearance again, right?
Yeah, if you make your own yogurt, what's going to happen?
It's going to be watery.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the other thing. So number 1 is reduce your intake of ultra-processed foods. Number 2, look at the ingredient listing and see if there's any of those gums that we're talking about or other foods that we mentioned, like the carrageenan or xanthum gum, guar gum, polysorbates, mono and diglycerides, agar, locust bean gum, CMC, which is a carboxymethylcellulose. So all of those items are emulsifiers that are added to products.
Right.
So number 3, make your own salad dressing. So find a simple, easy way to do that. It might be just oil and vinegar. Mm-hmm. You could just pour it on the salad, or you can put it into a mason jar or into a cup and just stir it up and then pour it on. If you like creamy, what about that? What do you do for creamy salad dressing?
Yogurt.
Yeah, plain yogurt is great. Plain yogurt, and then maybe garlic and like if you think of tzatziki style.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's different ways to do that. And then number 4 is use natural peanut butter, just the nuts.
Oh, absolutely. And it's delicious. They're not all the same, I found. Some are very kind of dry, so they're really like sticky and a little bit harder to eat, I find, than some of the other ones that have maybe a little bit of salt in them. I think that the processing maybe is done with different peanuts because I don't think they add salt. Well, I guess it's added at some point, but I find I prefer those. But yeah, like I said, if you try one and you don't like it, try a different brand because there is a bit of a difference, even though they're all sort of the same process with just peanuts. Right.
And remember our friend Scott Fickerson, he makes his own peanut butter, and many people do. So, I mean, I know your big objection to making our own peanut butter is cleaning out the food processor after.
You know what I was just going to say, though? I did do it once, and the bonus of making your own is you don't have to stir the peanut butter, because that's a pain in the butt, too. Like when you open the jar, all the oil's on top, like the store-bought just peanuts kind of peanut butter. All the oil's on top and all the sort of the hard parts on the bottom, and it's a bit of a task to stir it to the point where it's nice and consistent, and no one in our family likes to do it. So that's one of my jobs, it seems. And it's tricky because it's full, and it's tricky to stir it all without making a huge mess and to get it consistent. And so yeah, if you just throw a bunch of peanuts in the blender and turn it on, when you're done, it's already mixed up. You just got to scoop it out of the blender.
Does it separate eventually?
Yeah. No, well, does the oil separate, you mean?
The homemade.
I didn't notice that it did.
Oh, it never does?
Well, it didn't last long enough.
Oh, it didn't last long enough.
So maybe
I think it will.
Eventually it probably would.
It probably would separate, just like it does.
But once it's already stirred, I mean, it's easy to stir once it's already stirred. So I don't know. I don't know how many people are going to run out and make their own, but it is an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same with the oat milk or almond milk or whatever plant-based milk, because if you check the ingredient list on your favorite plant-based milk alternative that you might be adding to your coffee or using for cereal or however you use plant-based milk alternatives, there's probably some sort of emulsifier in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure.
So the fifth idea is to use plain Greek yogurt. and not the flavored. We've talked about yogurt so many different times on this podcast, but in various episodes. We just did one recently.
Yeah. So the one more reason to sort of stick to the plain, because the flavored has emulsifiers, but the plain doesn't.
Remember what emulsifiers do? So
yeah, they bind. So what about the yogurts that have all the fruit at the bottom?
Got to check the label.
Okay.
Everyone's different. But the plain, right away, you know you're just getting yogurt. With any flavored yogurt, it's got additives. It's got sweeteners. It's probably got emulsifiers. It could be the guar gum. It could be the xanthum gum. It could be the carrageenan.
Yeah.
So any of those thickeners, gelling agents, emulsifiers, because people like that smooth, consistent texture. And this is another reason that it's really good when kids are young to have a wide variety, like offer them many different vegetables and fruits in different forms so they get used to the taste of natural flavors.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they only eat foods that have been processed, they're going to grow up needing those certain textures, needing those foods that have the emulsifiers.
Yep.
Right?
I had a friend when I was younger that would only eat Kraft peanut butter. Like it was so extreme. And he would like come to our house for lunch and he'd ask my mom what brand the peanut butter was. And if it wasn't Kraft, he wouldn't eat it. It's like, oh my God. Like it was just so, I was like young and I could see that was an issue. I was like 8 or 9 years old and I'd be rolling my eyes going, what different is peanut butter?
That is not unheard of. That happens a lot with families that have picky eaters. It's like, it's very common to have a child in your family that will only eat a certain brand or a certain color of package, which it's like, that's not even the food. The food's inside.
Yeah, I know. It's just...
But yeah, no, it's interesting. And it used to be that there was no natural peanut butter unless you made it from scratch, right? It used to be always like Skippy and Jif and Kraft and whatever. And it was all the kind that was like...
Yeah, mega processed.
Yeah, and lots of them have the icing sugar, molasses, or sweeteners in it, and then the emulsifiers too, to keep them all mixed well. They
spread nicely, and they're not oozy and goopy. And...
Yeah. So, I mean, if I bet people are wondering, oh my gosh, I only will eat that kind of peanut butter, and I only get like ranch, so it's like overall, like, are you eating other wholesome, minimally processed foods, and how much of these added sauces and gravies and things that you're adding to your food or foods that have them in the product are you eating every day? So it's like, it's a balance, right? If a good proportion of what you're eating has these emulsifiers, then it could be causing harm. And maybe you have gut issues. Maybe you have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Maybe you have ulcerative colitis or a history of Crohn's or celiac. So if you do have gut issues, really look at what you're eating and maybe start looking at the ingredients. And are you ingesting a lot of these ingredients that are emulsifiers and thickening agents and gelling agents and...
Yeah, all the additives that are not really serving your health.
Yeah, like the chemical additives that are making your food taste better, look better, feel better, mouth feel. You know, all those aspects are part of our eating experience, our sensory experience. But if we're really stuck on the certain texture and we don't move away from that, that could be causing a problem in the long term.
Yeah, there you go. Good advice. It's interesting to hear some of this stuff because it's not your mainstream kind of health and nutrition advice that you hear people talking about. It's usually like eat your veggies and, you know, don't eat too much sugar and all that. But these other little tips are just as important and super helpful. And so I'm glad we discussed that today.
Yeah. And I think, the whole idea of like lecithin and how that impacts your health, like that's a whole different topic that we can talk about another time. It is, lecithin is in some foods and it's a natural occurring food that they do add as an emulsifier. But the ones I'm more concerned about that we're hearing more reports about, okay, this could be harmful are the gums, like the xanthum gum and guar gum and carrageenan and all those types of emulsifiers. So yeah, anyways, it's okay to mix it yourself, shake it up yourself. Try to have foods that you're making from scratch so that you don't have to use a lot of these foods that are already like perfect texture and mixed and stirred, yeah. So
awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for joining us today. If you like the show, share it with your friends and let them know that you're learning a ton of stuff and you're feeling better and getting healthy. And my wife, the dietitian, has been part of that journey for you. You can also rate and review the show. That's super helpful for us and also for helping other people find the show. You can check out our website as well if you want more information about what we do. We've got a great blog on there with lots of great articles. We've got a weekly newsletter you can sign up for. We've got some other giveaways on there as well that you can get, little freebies and that sort of thing. And we'll be adding more all the time. You can email us at mywifetherd@gmail.com like our listener did today. If you have questions, ideas for the show, things you'd like us to talk about, that sort of thing. Or if you just want to say hi and tell us how much you like the show, that's always welcome as well. You can find us on social media as well. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can comment there. You can just give us a like or subscribe or join or however it works on each of those platforms. That's all super helpful and keeps you connected, keeps you up to date on what we're doing. We'll be back on Wednesday with Nutrition Nuggets. So until then, have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for joining us today on My Wife, the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.